Before I get started with this video, I just want to put out a little trigger warning. This is a true crime video. There will be violence. There will be just murder. But yeah, trigger warning if you're sensitive to that type of stuff. So you were warned. And a big thing to remember with this case is the theme of trees. That's important. Just keep them on your mind, okay? Hello people of the internet, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Today's video is all about Matthew Hoffman. It's a wild one, guys. If you're wondering, this is Peach Punch, you know, in honor of Georgia today, because shout out to Georgia. So Matthew Hoffman was born on November 1st, 1980. He's a Scorpio, if you're wondering. So I couldn't find much background on his childhood, but neighbors often described him as being erratic and having weird and strange behavior. He would kill squirrels and eat them, and often capture little animals and kill them. Surprised how he turned out? No. He also set people's lawns on fire. So he was that pyromaniac asshole kid in your neighborhood that your parents would always be complaining about. So remember how I said to remember trees? Matthew loved them. Like, loved them. He loved them so much that he even made a career path out of trees. And by that, I mean he literally became a tree trimmer. Trees were his life. Before I get into the main case, I just want to point out and say that Matthew Hoffman was not a stranger to crime. He was convicted of burglary, theft, and first-degree arson in 2001. He set a condo complex on fire in order to cover up his robbery that he just committed. So for that, he served 8 years in prison. So fast forward to November 10th, 2010, Matthew is freshly 30 years old and living in Apple Valley, Ohio. How peaceful does that sound? Apple Valley, Ohio. I gotta search that on Google. I hope that it looks as pretty as it sounds. Apple Valley, Ohio. So you could imagine how much debt Matthew had built up being in prison for 8 years and burning down a condo complex and robbing them. So he owed them a lot of money. He racked it up over the years, and instead of, you know, being a normal person and trying to get a job and being, you know, not bad, he decides, I need to steal from a house and get money that way. So he goes and randomly selects a house and waits for his moment to enter. And when I say he waited, guys, I really mean he waited. He camped out across the street from the house and brought a sleeping bag and literally was waiting so long that he fell asleep. And that's just, that blows my mind. So his dedication was real. This man was literally cuddled up across the street in his sleeping bag until 9 a.m. That's when his opportunity rose. So at 9 a.m., all the residents of the home left, and Matthew Hoffman was able to break in through the garage because it was left slightly open. And Michael, oh, why did I call him Michael? His name is Matthew, excuse me, but he's a murderer, so I don't give a fuck how I say his name. But Matthew swears up and down that his only intention was to steal that day and not do anything else. Stealing gave him a thrill. It turned him on probably a little. So here's a quote from Matthew Hoffman. Even if I did not take anything, there was still a certain amount of excitement from being in someone else's home with them not being there. He's creepy, he's horrible, and I don't like him. When you evaluate the quote, like, does that not sound like he's turned on to you? Like, my dude is taking pleasure in something that he's not supposed to be doing. So Matthew Hoffman was looking for stuff of value in the home, and he ended up not finding anything. And he looked for about an hour before one of the residents of the home came home, Tina Herman. She came home literally right when he was about to leave. So she comes home, she pulls up in her car, and Matthew Hoffman is panicking. So he runs to the back of the house and ends up in the master bedroom, where he decides the only option is to stay instead of breaking a window and leaving. Like, you would think, like, if I were a criminal, I would literally, like, not my DNA, bitch, knock out the window and leave. Like, at the end of the day, I'm just saying that he literally didn't have to kill anybody that day. He could have just, he didn't have to kill anybody. He didn't have to rob anybody either, but, you know. And warning again, because this is where the story becomes a little graphic, so if you're not into that and you're sensitive, click another video. I have other ones. I can't wink. 32-year-old Tina Herman was the mom of the household. She was confronted by Hoffman when she entered her bedroom, and he was threatening her with a knife and threatened her to lay down. So he forced her to lay down on the bed, and this knife that he had, he actually ordered a week before this incident. And he said the purchase of the knife wasn't to hurt anybody, but to be used as an intimidation escape route in case he were to be walked in on like he was. Along with the knife, Hoffman also had a club, also known as a baton, also known as the thing that police carry but never use, cough, cough, shade. I don't know, but if the shoe fits, lace it up and wear it, bitch. So
I said what I said.
his goal was to knock her out, so he repeatedly hit her in the back of the head with the baton. But Tina would not pass out easy. She was conscious the entire time, and that's when Matthew began to panic. And in the middle of Hoffman's panic episode, 41-year-old Stephanie Sprang walks into the bedroom, and that is Tina Herman's friend. Let me paint the picture for you. We have Tina on the bed, beaten and still conscious. We have Matthew Hoffman over here holding a knife and a baton, and then we have Stephanie, who had just entered, probably screaming and yelling, "What are you doing? I'm gonna call the cops." So it's just a lot of chaos and a lot is happening. So panic completely consumes Matthew. This makes him act. So he ends up stabbing Tina 2 times in the back. This prompts Stephanie to run down the hall. Matthew chases her, catches her, stabs her multiple times, killing her, and then he returns to the bedroom and finishes Tina off. He stabbed them enough times to make sure they were truly dead. And after this, he was pacing back and forth around the house, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because it was truly hitting him what he had done. And while this was happening, he decides to kill the family dog also to add to the murders because it wouldn't stop barking. So now it is time to process the bodies. And yes, you heard me right. I said process the bodies. He's literally acting like killing somebody and disposing their bodies is like the equivalent of working in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, and that disgusts me. So let's continue. So if you haven't caught on, processing the bodies is dismembering the bodies and disposing of them, and his plan was to do this and then set the house on fire. Processes the bodies in the bathroom, and then he goes to the kitchen to find garbage bags, and it was reported that the garbage bags at the house weren't strong enough for holding the bodies, so Matthew had to run to Walmart real fast and buy some heavy-duty garbage bags. Once done processing the bodies, he drags them into the garage and begins to load up the car when he's interrupted by 11-year-old Corey and 13-year-old Sarah. So Corey and Sarah are Tina's children, and Matthew immediately panics and acts on his panic and stabs Corey. Sarah runs into a bedroom where Matthew chases her. He didn't want her calling anyone, let alone the police showing up, so he chases her and catches her, and he ties her up with some electrical cords from a fan, and he sat her in the kitchen and she watched him clean up. So fast forward, he's in his Jeep. He has 13-year-old Sarah tied up in his passenger seat and the bodies of Tina, the dog, Corey, and Stephanie in the back. And so he drives all the way to Coco Sing Wildlife Area in Knox County, Ohio. And being a tree trimmer, he knows the area very well. So this is MacGyver Murder Edition, because my dude ends up making like this pulley system and uses his tree trimmer equipment and disposes of the bodies inside the tree. And oh wow. After this, he takes Sarah back to his house where he keeps her in his not really furnished dark basement where she is left gagged and tied up. She stayed in this basement for 4 days. She stayed trapped in this basement for 4 days, and Hoffman makes her experience sound like Disney World. He was like, we watched movies, we cuddled up, and he claimed he cooked for her. He brought her all these leaves. I'm sorry. He's so into trees, guys. He claimed that he cooked for her and that he brought leaves down so that she could be comfy, and they watched movies like Iron Man, and basically she was his guest. But that's not what went down at all. This wasn't a magical time. He literally sexually abused her for 4 days and treated her like trash. And that's not, Matthew's crazy. But meanwhile, Tina has not shown up for work. So guess who comes a knocking at her house door? Her boss. Her boss sees the chaos around the house. There's blood everywhere. So they call the cops, and the cops immediately bring out a missing persons investigation. By the way, he took Tina's car and drove it to a nearby college and parked it there. His whole plan was to go back, dispose of it by burning it, and then burning down the house to burn all the evidence. But of course, the robbery didn't go, according to plan. So why would anything else that he does go according to plan? So of course, when he goes to dispose of everything, the cops are swarming everywhere. And the cops end up stopping him, but not accusing him of anything. It was just a normal routine thing. And they ask him, what are you doing here? And he ends up saying he's waiting for his girlfriend to get off work. So he's waiting for his girlfriend to get off at a nearby hotel, and the cops end up letting him go. They didn't see anything wrong. So in the Herman home, the cops had found 2 tarps, a Walmart bag, and heavy-duty garbage bags. And with all that evidence, the cops go to Walmart and watch the surveillance footage. And for once, thank you God, literally, the surveillance footage was actually working that day. It's like going to McDonald's and the milkshake machine, like, actually work. Ice cream machine. I don't know why I said milkshake machine. I mean, it does the same thing. When they watch their surveillance footage, they immediately recognize Hoffman. Justice, guys. For once, it's working. 4 days later, the authorities bust down his door and he is sleeping on the couch. So they end up throwing him to the ground, and Matthew goes, "What's going on?" And the cops respond with, "You tell us." And Matthew immediately shut up. Like, he knew what was going on. And y'all, when they searched this man's house, the stuff they found, good night. So there's barely any furniture. His walls had writing and drawings all over them. And in his freezer, he actually had dead squirrels and some popsicles. Quality diet, of course. There were leaves everywhere, and a linen cabinet was blocking the basement door where they would discover Sarah. So Sarah was found wearing a garbage bag diaper, literally a garbage bag with 2 feet holes poked out. And she was rescued and reunited with her father. So leaves were found throughout the house, and Hoffman actually told Sarah that he had friends help him decorate. I just want to know who his friends are. And there's 2 theories as to why he kept his house the way he did with leaves everywhere. It's either A, because he's mentally unstable and has an obsession, makes sense, or B, it makes it easier to burn. Professionals lean more towards theory A, but B, guys, it makes sense. I feel like they're both equals. The interrogation between the police and Matthew Hoffman was 4 hours long, and he refused to speak. He never apologized, but he did try to make a deal with them. The authorities needed to know where the bodies were, so Matthew thought up a deal, and this deal consisted of him writing down where the bodies are, giving it to the police, him getting away, them shooting him in the back, him dying, and then them being able to read it when he is dead. Moral of the story, Matthew Hoffman wanted to die while he was in jail. He was being treated for schizophrenia, and he didn't want to be treated, and he was also put on suicide watch. And no deal was made with him. He ended up confessing after having a nightmare. So he was charged with murder, aggravated burglary, rape, kidnapping, tampering with evidence, and abuse of corpses. So he was found guilty on every single one of those charges. He's now serving life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is what he deserves. Sarah is now 23 years old. Oh my gosh, we're literally the same age. Wow. I hope today she's thriving and living her best life, because she deserves the world, and she's so strong. Jesus. I feel like strong doesn't even do this in her justice. Like, there has to be like a bigger word. The question I have at the end of this is, was it really and truly an accident, or was this planned? Sarah's father believes otherwise. Hoffman stated himself that it wasn't planned, but as I said, Sarah's dad believes otherwise. And when you think about it, guys, I mean, he did spend the night in a sleeping bag cuddled up across the street and waited. So premeditation, question mark? Burglars burglarize, killers kill. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any case suggestions, let me know. Also, give me your opinion. I want them. But no rude comments on this case. I will literally report you and block you and all that jazz. Only respect, guys. Only be kind. But that's all for today. I hope that didn't scare ya. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go search like baby pigs or baby puppies, or just puppies. You don't call them baby puppies, on Google, and make yourself happy. Namaste. Have a nice day, guys.